we have to sort of decide what our approach to these issues is going to be. Are we going to light our hair on fire every time that there is a setback in the campaign against ISIL, or are we going to take very seriously our responsibility to evaluate those areas where we succeed and evaluate where steps are necessary for us to change our strategy where we've sustained setbacks?
Now that from White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest this week, defending the administration's efforts against ISIS and describing the fall of Ramadi, calling it a mere setback. The fall of Ramadi and now the fall of Palmyra in Syria is raising new questions about White House strategy, including efforts to resurrect Iraqi security forces and the focus of the U.S. working with Iraq to retake Mosul by the end of the year. Also, Kurdish fighters are confronting huge challenges against ISIS, since so many have yet to receive the promised equipment and resources to fight ISIS on the ground. They are taking on big casualties as well as they wait for the U.S. to act. Joining us now, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, who is the senior fellow with the London Center for Policy Research, along with Bayan Sami Abdul Rahman, the head representative of the Kurdistan regional government to the U.S. She is joining us via Skype. Thanks to the both of you for joining us today. Tony, let me begin with you. Sure. This week, the White House downplays the loss of this key city of ISIS. You have news that the efforts to stop ISIS are really faltering badly, and beyond Iraq, you have information that ISIS is right now making headway in Afghanistan, right now in control of 5 provinces. Is that correct?
Huge progress, Uma. Let's be very blunt about this. Everywhere that Al-Qaeda was, ISIS now is. And in one of those places where they're being able to make great gains is in Afghanistan. They're going after the profit centers there. They've already taken over 5 provinces in the north. They're trying to take over the old trader routes, the old smugglers' routes, plus access to the key resources, mineral resources in Afghanistan. In the south, they've taken over 3 provinces trying to get control of the drug trade. So what they're doing there is quite brilliant. They're trying to gain access and maintain control of the economic drivers of that country. They don't need Kabul, they don't need Kandahar, they need the resources. And this obviously will be used to fuel their larger continued global expansion.
Tony, let me ask you, why does it seem that the White House isn't appearing to be concerned about the gains ISIS is making right now? What are your sources telling you about our military leaders, how they are handling the fact that this White House continues to sidestep any significant offensive against ISIS at this point?
Well, there's people in the Pentagon, Uma, who actually know what's going on. They're trying to do the right thing. It's because the White House is personally, directly trying to control this, much like Lyndon Baines Johnson tried to control the Vietnam War from the White House. Didn't work out for LBJ. It's not going to work out here. We have to recognize the current strategy is not existent. There isn't one that actually it does anything. And let's look at what's going on in Iraq, for example. The Iraq strategy to keep Iraq together in one country is not going to work. The very reason the Iraq Army keeps collapsing is that the country it was designed to defend back in 2009 no longer exists. You have Sunni Shia elements which have completely split. They see these people, these Sunni, see the Shia dominating Baghdad, the Iranians dominating Baghdad, and they no longer have any reason to fight. They're almost more closely aligned with ISIS than they are Baghdad. So all these things going on, Uma, plus the refusal to arm the Kurds, continues to be the very issue of why the strategy, for whatever it is worth, is not working.
Well, this brings me to our next guest. Ms. Rahman, I'm so happy you could join us here today because, as you know, I have been interviewing your leaders over the past several months about the lack of needed equipment and resources that are being sent to the courageous Kurdish fighters. I know that you just met with folks at the White House. Even though we're hearing that plans are underway to step up supplies, it's amazing to me that those soldiers still are pleading for basic arms. What can you tell us?
As you said, Uma, indeed, President Barzani was in Washington just last week. He left last Saturday, and he did meet President Obama, Vice President Biden, and the Pentagon, State Department, and many others. His message was clear. We're very grateful to the United States for standing by us. We're also asking the United States to send us more weapons. We're grateful for what we've received, and we're using them to great effect. But we need more weapons because ISIS remains a threat.
Yeah, ISIS remains a threat, but your folks have been pleading since last summer for basic supplies like helmets, bullets, night vision goggles. Your troops are suffering high casualties there. If they had the needed equipment that they were promised months ago, would they be making bigger gains against ISIS?
Well, our Peshmerga have done very well already. We have retaken all territory that we consider to be Kurdistani, and we have held them back. But it is difficult. You know, they attack at night, and without the right night vision goggles, which is perhaps basic equipment in some armies, but we don't have it, it does mean that ISIS can threaten and attack us. But, you know, when President Barzani was here, he was reassured over and over again in all of the high-level meetings that he had that the Peshmerga would get the weapons that they need. And this is the basis on which we're now working, and we're looking forward to continuing our cooperation with the United States. And if I may, Uma, I do want to say thank you to America for standing by us. If it wasn't for America, if it wasn't for the aerial strikes, for the support that we're getting, the situation would be far worse than it is today.
Well, Tony, let me ask you, do you believe that Ramadi, Mosul, and the other cities under ISIS control right now can be retaken by the U.S., or are we too far gone, and that the Iraq that we knew a few years ago is done, that inevitably it's going to be a country that's going to end up being split up?
The Iraq that we knew is gone, period. The president has to accept that and get past that. Because of not being willing to understand that, he's actually still pretending that the government in Baghdad is still in charge, which results in the Kurds not getting the gear and support that they directly needed. Yes, God bless the Kurds for what they're doing, but they could be doing so much better. Two things need to be done. First, you need to arm the Kurds to the level necessary to see them do more. I would use them as an internal expeditionary force to go retake all those cities back you just mentioned. They are able, they're willing, and plus they know how to fight. The Iraqi Army, as we knew it, is gone. Let's use the resources we have. Let's get past this John McCain meme of wanting to send U.S. forces in there. Let's use the things we have that we know will work before we have to send U.S. forces in. Secondly, we have to create or help the Gulf Coalition become what I would call the Red Sea Treaty Organization. We have Arab armies we have trained for the past 50 years. President al-Sisi and the Egyptians could lead it. We could get behind the Arabs who are actually trained and able in our doctrine and our equipment to go do the fighting with the Iraqis to put some stability back. It will not be the Iraq we knew, but at least we have to push ISIS back, retake the territory we've lost. Uma, we've got to get away from this ungoverned space. The more ungoverned space there is, the more ISIS will succeed and take over all the sites we're talking about.
Indeed. Your advice is well taken, and I hope that the White House is listening. We do need a strategy. My thanks to you, Colonel Schaefer, and Ms. Rahman, thank you so much for joining us. I know that the Kurdish fighters are truly brave individuals, and they are doing the best they can under very difficult circumstances. Now we'd like to hear from you. Can our forces retake the cities of Ramadi, Mosul, and others from ISIS, or is it too late to act, as I just asked a moment ago? Tweet me your responses at Uma Pemaraju, and we may read some of your answers a little bit later on in the show.